No, no, you just want to know that song. It's true. Before he could say, no, Tendai Mori. And when he was having trouble saying Tendai Mori. Right. Them asked me to talk about why Africans in the UK need African People's Parliament. It's good to be at the Bristol Kwanzaa. Yeah. It's the most celebrated Kwanzaa in the country. Yeah. And to be honest, I was expecting a few more Bristolians on you. So somebody have to address the issue of why them are there and make sure so them come next year back. Because me hear so enough of them used to come, time gone. So a piece of work did it. I should have been here last year, but I was ill and didn't make it. But I'm here this year and glad to be with you. I asked a sister who maybe not yet a die-hard Pan-Africanist and Africanist, but struggling along to develop quick, why she thinks that the African community in the UK need the African People's Parliament. And she said she know why, but more important, when it's going to come. And I like the, what shall we call it, radical impatience of the sister. Because people hear about the African People's Parliament long time now, and they're not too sure where exactly it is. But the truth of the matter is that right from the start, there's a plan. And the plan was to take 3 years developing from the interim through the interim stage by mobilization and education and all of them other shams to the National African People's Parliament stage. And in fact, we are on track. And so we have to give thanks to that. People are doing the work, even if not every detail is getting across in quite the way that it should. So the question remains then, why do we Africans in the UK need the African People's Parliament? They're dropping already. No. And so let me move toward the answer, because we've been here a long time, it's been a long day, and people want to go on and kind of thing. So, my fellow Africans, the first part, for me anyway, of the answer to the question about the urgent necessity for the NAP in England, for the interim period to be over and for us to move on to the next stage of the work. That question remains and has to be answered. And the truth, for me, is that a number of truths. One of them is that the work is starting or even restarting 30 years late. Right? 30 years late. And I'm going to explain what I mean. But importantly also, this is not the first effort. And it's not a history session, so all I can tell you is that enough efforts have been made by the African community in the UK to organize naturally and nationally. And the truth of the matter is that all we have is the residual effects of that effort. And you can go through them, you know. There was a time in the 70s when the state, and let us call them the petty bourgeois leadership, with money from a place called the Kalus Gulbenkian Foundation. And that is oil money, right? And the oil money came to the state, and the state assembled some people, and they tried to organize we into a national organization. Suffice it to say that it never worked. The lead voice in that moment, dead and gone, Dr. Pitt. And on that occasion, we know Courtney Griffiths, the lawyer, Courtney, the QC. Courtney came to, he was a student at the LSE at the time, and Courtney came to prominence in that moment, because during the founding conference, Courtney made an electrifying speech that anybody who was there will remember till this day. And from then, Courtney don't look back. He's a good lawyer still. But that is a moment when we hear about him for the first time. And there have been other efforts that have come and gone. I don't know if people know that in the late 1960s, there was something called the Universal Colored People's Association. That everybody in the next 2 decades, almost everybody was in. Right? And all of the tendencies were there. So the people that we came after that to call nationalists, and the people that we call Marxists were in there. And guess what? It mashed up exactly around those political lines, and people went off and founded organizations that were either nationalist or Marxist, allegedly. Now me, I wasn't quite there, but my view from that time was that I might be a Marxist, and I've been more of a Marxist in the past than I am now, but importantly, even at the time when I was most seriously a Marxist, working within the community with nationalists was something that was important to do. And iNAPP never fall out with no nationalists yet over the issue, because there was African community work to do. That's important. Never fall out with no nationalists. I was a founder member of another of the national efforts. One of them happened after people came back as the delegation that went to the 6th Pan-African Congress in 1974. A few people who went, Brother Marcel, Brother Beanie, he now has a good African name that I forget, and I will learn it eventually. But those men were at the conference. And after that, whatever their positions were, whatever mine was, we gathered to form a national organization. It was called the PAC first, and then it became the PACM, and it's still about. It's struggling a bit. It's struggling a bit, but it's still about, right? So, and then before that, there was another national effort. This one is a bit Marxist. It was headquartered in Nottingham, and it was called the Black National Action Congress or something. Huh? Collective. Yes, ma'am. Nottingham. Some good brothers were sitting at the center of that in Nottingham. The NAC beat it out, but it was a good national effort, mainly oriented towards the left. And there's another one that I was involved in, organized by a magazine that I was on the editorial collective of, by the editor, a man called Alric Xavier Cambridge. Very bright brother, good man. And we tried to organize something called COBO. And COBO sought not just to be national, but to be Europe-wide. And we actually had meetings of Africans from France, coming through France, Holland, Germany, and Belgium at different times. COBO, right? Dead long time, right? COBO. But that was a national effort, right? Now, in 1981, 1981, my brothers and sisters, important things happened here. The year opened with that horrible, what we call it, the New Cross Massacre, right? And we had a song, and the song was right. 14 dead and nothing said. The state never paid the murder of black people, nor mine. But we knew that we couldn't let it be ignored. So all factions gathered around the New Cross massacre and called. It happened on the 18th of January, 1981. And we gathered in New Cross at the center down there. We organized. Time was necessary, so it never happened the next day. It happened on the 2nd of March. And it happened. And importantly, people came out. I was at a meeting last week where a man said, where with that story about 25,000 people that come out, it's 50,000. And his authority for saying that was that him the deaf on the truck at the front, and when him look back at 50,000 people in the city. So anything between 25,000 and 50,000 a day, and me was one of them, and I was close to the truck that I talk about. And the truck mattered because even though the state had agreed to the route of the march, and them come heavy, them bring a man from what they call it, public order, a toughie, to tell me if have a march. And then halfway through it, them try to stop it. Them throw a police cordon around it. I don't know what part the truck played in getting through, but me did hear people say, on, forward, and we just push the police line out of the way and I'm gone, right? So that was 1981. The year opened with that horror, and the police, instead of investigating it, tried to make the people at the party, the victims whose friends had died, whose relatives had died, into criminals and suspect murderers. That is how the police handled it. And in the meantime, my brothers and sisters, right there, in that heated moment in our community, them planned a thing called Swamp 81, a stop and search operation like no other. 2,000 people stopped by police in part of Lambeth, Brixton basically, over a very short period of time. Anger, step on the land, right? And of course, that being so, you combine with the mass murder of us and the humiliating stops of us and people ready to fight you. So, 1981, an opportunity missed, was a well-provoked and seasoned opportunity, right? No, that was a year of the biggest uprising by this state has ever seen. The Brixton Uprising, March, April, 1981. And later on in the year, everywhere else come out. So that was the year of uprising. We need to remember, my brothers and sisters, that is not the first time we uprise. We have a whole history of uprising. If you just confine yourself to the period after the Second World War, we find people resisting in Liverpool and in Deptford because in those areas when we were arriving at the time of the Windrush and after, we faced something called race riots. White people trying to say, we don't belong here, and we're whay, and all of that. And black people had to stand up, and we did. And we stand up 10 years later in Nottingham and Notting Hill. And people don't know. But in that piece of resistance, I have a picture of a woman who must have been a grandmother. She looked like a classical, not now. We have a whole heap of grandmother who are pretty and nice. But in them days, get on to wait and the balloting, right? Yeah, right. And so she looked like a granny. And in our front yard, there's a photo, I have it, I treasure it. The granny have a hatchet and she's ready to defend herself against anything that will show up on she. The woman would have been 54, 64, whatever, if she was a day. But it's not just she. Guns were available and ready to be used in Notting Hill. Me know this for a fact, me research it. Right? Them get the guns from the American GIs, the African American GIs. That's where them get the guns from. And it's not just that. In Blenheim Crescent, I think it's 13 or 19 Blenheim Crescent, Molotov cocktails were being prepared by Africans right there in London, Notting Hill, to defend themselves against the so-called Teddy Boys. We stood up. And in a way, that is why that riot, so-called, ended. Because suddenly the state saw that them Africans not going to take it. Right? They saw that. And that is why the state itself cooled it out, and a judge makes some statement about, okay, I treat black people so. And then meantime, incidentally, those same judges were jailing black people for defending themselves. Whole heap of people went to prison. And we need to remember that. It happened after the Mark Duggan thing. Thousands still arresting people for it. So, resistance, 1981 was a crucial moment. Remember I said, my brothers and sisters, that people of all political colors, persuasions, call it what you will, came out into the New Cross Massacre Action Committee, which is the organization that we founded to mobilize following the New Cross Massacre. One organization took control of the center of that mobilization. It's called the Race Today, Bradford Black Parents Movement Alliance. Basically the Race Today Alliance. Darcus Howe and them, John LaRose and them. And they played a good role in it. They were good organizers. But they only saw themselves, and the rest of us they despised. One of them, and the man is my friend, called those of us who were not in their section of that mobilization the a-hole end of the movement. And he used the phrase again to me recently, and I'm telling him, my friend. Right? It was in an article in City Limits. Him write it down. And he used the phrase to me again when we were together in the 1 or 2 days of the Dublin inquest that I went to. Right? So they despised us. And importantly, they despised especially the people who were explicitly race nationalists. Right? So I would have kind of escaped a little bit because I was tainted or elevated by my Marxism. we'll discuss whether it's taint or elevation in time and season. So, yeah, so, but importantly, the way they mobilize, right? Thousands of people are coming out. You're going to march from New Cross to Hyde Park, and it happened. 25,000, 50, whichever, right? You're going to have a closing platform of the leadership making state. They refused to agree to any such arrangement because they thought that they would inherit the benefits of what was a national mobilization that was not entirely theirs. And because of that, because the rest of us weren't as prepared as they were, the New Cross Massacre Action Committee became theirs, and them write the book and them tell the story. Right? They were the hunters in a way. But us, the hunted, still need to tell that story about what really happened. Because it was an important missed opportunity. You cannot put 50,000 or even 25,000 Africans on the street of this place and not organize something national out of it. And the reason it didn't happen, my brothers and sisters, was that there were some people who were satisfied with their national organization, their national alliance. And that, right. So, the Parliament, my brothers and sisters, the interim national parliament, leading in a year's time to the National African People's Parliament, is another attempt coming out of those same events to create a national entity that will represent, that will mobilize, that will educate, that will lead revolution on behalf of the African people, if necessary. And nobody tell you say not necessary. Yes, sir. Right? It's a site of oppression of the worst kind. Right? And that being so, we Africans have to look at how the place stay. Not true? Right? We have to ask the Garveyite question. What is the conditions of existence and oppression of Africans in London and the rest of the United Kingdom now? And that will dictate how we move. And when you look, my brothers and sisters, when you look, you find that 50% of the young people them unemployed. You find that they're stopping 14 times more frequently than other people, them same black people on the street for no reason. We have a sister in this room whose son was in a telephone booth in South London, and a police car with a policeman and a policewoman arrive on the spot. Them see him now do nothing illegal, and them decides that I'm going to search him. Right? Not do it now. The rules say that something in the conduct of the person to be searched should give rise to legitimate suspicion on the part of the police officer. The judge is the first time I such a good looking judge. The judge said, on the evidence of the state, nothing that you have said represented a proper basis for the decision to search before you initiated that search. Ergo, any resistance that the man put up, and he never put up on him, just tried to stand him ground, is legitimate and can't charge him with nothing. And the judge said to the lawyer, after hearing the police, what are you going to do? And he started to say, I'm going to put up my client. And she said, are you going to make a submission? This is the first time in recent that I hear a judge invite the lawyer to put a submission. And he started to put the submission, and she said, I know what you're going to say. And she summarized the case without hearing the submission. I think she had it on paper from him already. Right? But, yeah. But that's what happened as in the court. Now, they beat up the youth, bad. Him just standing in ground in a phone box, you know, and then call for assistance, right? And other people descended and they beat the youth up really bad, entirely illegally. It's happening all the time. I come out of my house, and I come out of my house in Hackney, and I see the police stopping and searching somebody, and I take out my cell phone for photo, and the whole thing mash up. The senior man come and talk to me, and them have the man, one have him handcuff already, and then let him go and get into that thing and drive off, right? Entirely illegally. That is how they act. Now, that is how they act. Now, they have us on their national DNA database too much away, right? They have too much away as a result of the racism of the courts and the police and the prosecution process. The whole thing is racist. They have a massive proportion of us in the prison and the youth offenders places. They have another whole heap of us for complicated reasons in mental institutions. They have a whole other set of us, youngsters, not in schools, but in educational refuse bins, because they have thrown them out of the schools. They've thrown them out of the schools, and they have them there, and they're not doing nothing with them. We come across another sister who was working in one of those units, and the youth them sexually assault her, and the school not ready for it. because it looked like it's all right for the youth them to do anything in those places as long as, I don't know as long as what, but that kind of thing has happened, right? And you can continue down the road concerning the question, what is the situation? What are the conditions of oppression that we Africans face now in Britain? And you can carry on, my brothers and sisters, a long list of things. Now, in those circumstances, how can it be that we wouldn't need a national representative mobilizing institution? Something that enables us to take responsibility and to effect solutions, as one of our slogans say. Right, so, let me make it clear. I am a member, and proudly so, of the national leadership of this process. But importantly, I am proud of my fellow members of the leadership. As young Tafazwa said, I'm under about long time. I've been active one way and another since the late 1960s in this country. And after that, for a while, I spent 12 years back in Jamaica, and I was active there too. So I have dealt with activists of all shapes and sizes, black ones and white ones, over something 45 to 50 years. And I tell you, my brothers and sisters, that the leadership of this organization are as skilled, as dedicated, as committed, as able, it's a long, long list of work, as any leadership, any body of people that I have worked with. And if this group of people, my brothers and sisters, my fellow Africans in the UK, cannot make the national organization that they have conceived to deal with the multiple problems facing us, if they cannot make it work, if we cannot make it work, there is no other group here and no conceivable other group that will be able to do that. So, these people, it seems to me, have to be supported in this effort. You have to be patient, you have to be committed, you have to be understanding, you have above all to join in the effort. If we do not do it, it will not happen. And it is absolutely necessary. The crisis that us Africans face, moving outside of the UK, my brothers and sisters, is what they call, you know, an existential crisis. Our life as a race is on the line. Right? Let me deal with this place first, to continue. We have a prime minister. And one of the first, I say, them have a prime minister. And one of the first things that he did was to make a speech denouncing multiculturalism. Right? You and I know that multiculturalism brought us very little benefits. It cost them next to nothing. Apart from after Brixton, 1981, when they put a few million in the multiculturalist pot because they were scared and because they want to buy off people, multiculturalism has cost the society nothing. And yet, here is a prime minister denouncing multiculturalism. And he's done more than that. He has abolished, or is about to abolish, a law under which attention needed to be paid by local authorities to the race and culture of a child to be adopted. They now say that any liberal racist who loves the black picnic, can get the black picnic and do what they want with them. That's what they now think. Importantly, my brothers and sisters, This gives us a duty to refight a battle that we won 30 years ago. Right? There was a movement in our community, brothers and sisters, led by people like John Small, a Jamaican academic who came over here and organized things. Thank you, my sister. I must look as if I'm drying out now. Yeah. So we won the victory. And all of those local authorities were paying attention to finding black fosterers and black adoptees and not willy-nilly putting black children with allegedly loving white, racist, liberal families. All of that ground has been moved, shifted, and it's been shifted on the most extraordinary basis. The most racist place in the world, having put some of their own people, the Jews, into gas chambers, suddenly decided not that racism was a bad thing, but that race was a bad thing, right? And they set out scientifically in educational institutions and in UNESCO to tell the world that the real enemy was the concept race, not their practice of racism. And they have spent about 50 years convincing themselves of that. And them have some little movements here and there. Them put a black man in the house, in the White House. Them find a black guy to play golf, and them say, see that race done. Right? And them send the little black man to Africa, to Ghana, to tell Africans that the whole business of a liberation struggle is over. That what we Africans must do is embrace capitalism. That is the way forward. That was what Obama told us in Accra when he went there shortly after his election. Right? Yeah. It's a long and complicated story, and you're right. Mandela is part of it. But now got it. Now got it this time. Right. So, right, that whole thing. Southern Africa. I went to Namibia once, my brothers and sisters, a few years ago. And I happened to get on Namibian television 2 times because of the context in which we were there. It was an international student conference, and the people who were part of it, I was there with the student delegation from the University of West Indies, Mona in Kingston, and then put us on. And the discussion was, can white people be African? And INAPP marshaled all the arguments to make it clear to everybody who had ears to hear that no white people can be no African. Right? It is genetically and culturally impossible. I tell them that on Namibian television. And when I done talk, a mixed race guy passed by me and whisper, you talk too much. And the next time I went to Namibia, they wouldn't let me anywhere near the studio. Wouldn't. Right? The white people have a program, my brothers and sisters, to make themselves into Africans as part of the process of ripping us off. Right? And when I say existential crisis, I mean it. My brothers and sisters, it's not just here, you know. Right? Life and death. In the period since we started getting independence, do you know, my brothers and sisters, that life expectancy in Africa has fallen by something over 2 decades? That Africans now live 20 years less than they did in the 1950s? Right? Do you know that they are taking more out of Africa now than they have ever done? Right? Do you know that they have set up, you should know, a whole set of regimes? They want us to call them post-colonial and so on and so forth. But these neo-colonial regimes, their purpose is to facilitate that exploitation and to kill we if we resist. That is their purpose. And on the 60, if you're in doubt about it, the last neo-colony is South Africa. Right? It started in 1957. Well, really 56 in Sudan. Right? And by the middle of the 1990s, 50-odd African countries were independent, and 50-odd African countries were neo-colonies. The governments were servants of the system from which they had been allegedly colonially liberated. And those governments are busy alienating our land, facilitating the white people to take our oil, facilitating the white people to take our rare, precious metals, facilitating, I come from Jamaica, and they facilitated the Americans and Canadians to don the bauxite, no day again. And we had a government that was prepared to dig down the cockpit country. It's a major watershed in the island. To dig down the cockpit country to sell some more bauxite to those same companies that had ripped us off, that had wrecked the Jamaican economy in the 1970s because Manley asked for another 0.5% on the bauxite levy. You think they're nice? Right? And if we continue, my brothers and sisters, under these regimes, Yasso and Desso, Africans will disappear as an autonomous race with a capacity to self-mobilize, with a capacity for self-liberation, because we will have sold all power, all wealth, all influence to the white people. And we will be dying like flies in the future, even more than we have. And we will be importing into Africa the people that we originally threw out. You know what? I heard it on the BBC the other day, my brothers and sisters, how Portuguese, I wrote an article in the 1970s in which I called Portugal a little European cesspit, and I was right. The cesspit habitees were thrown out of Africa after we showed the idiocy of their suggestion that those places in Africa were really Portugal overseas. We fought them out of our countries. And their children are being welcomed back there. And next thing you know, they will call themselves African. Right? It's a serious, serious condition us African people face. And we have to know how serious it is, and we have to know that we have to move seriously in order to contradict what is being done to us, including, right, Garvey, my brothers and sisters, called them educated and positioned Negroes. The Marxists called them the black bourgeoisie. Make we call them the neo-colonial class. They're hated in Jamaica, South Africa, 50-odd states in Africa, and another how much in the Caribbean? Right? And they are as much our enemy as the colonial regimes were during the time when Garvey recognized that we have to throw out the colonial regime. Right? So that is the case, my brothers and sisters, for the National African People's Parliament. We have to organize nationally to do our thing. We have to do that. No alternative. No alternative. We have to do that. I said earlier that I'm proud of the team that I'm part of. They're some very impressive individuals. The leader, Sister Ekwa, your own Sister Jendai. Massive. They're not easy. They represent their leadership. Right? And I repeat, if those people
If we, enough of them, I haven't named everybody, but they are remarkable people. And if we cannot make a national organisation, trust me, it's never going to happen. And it never happening has consequences. Now, there was a moment of crisis when things went a little bit awry, when holding a meeting didn't happen, and this and that and the next thing. We're back on track. We had a wonderful meeting about a month ago of the existing leadership, and we put things back on track. The next National Assembly is in the 16th of January. 18. And we're preparing, seriously, actively preparing for the next day of action, which is the 2nd of March, 2014, just around the corner. This effort will need serious African support. But let me say additionally why I genuinely say that I'm proud to be part of that as a struggling Marxist nationalist. Let me tell you, right? Yeah, no, a farmer not. Marxism is the kind of crisis, you know. In a serious crisis, me know that. Enough Marxists don't know, but me know, right? Karl Marx said that the test of a theory is the practice. And Marx's practice has failed spectacularly. Is only Cuba and China. And the Chinese are doing their best to call themselves communists and Marxists while running capitalism. So Marxism is in a serious crisis. And us Marxists have to know that that is so. But my brothers and sisters, Pan-Africanism, revolutionary Pan-Africanism, is also in crisis. Back to what I was saying. We have to realize the betrayer nature of much of our leadership here. And I connect that to iNAPP priorities. iNAPP has a priority, and it's an absolutely necessary priority to deal with the reparations issue. Why? Because it is possible that if we don't deal with it and don't win the present battle that we face, some people called Afrikan will sell out our ancestors who suffered, sell out those of us who are living now, and sell out those who are coming up behind for 30 pieces of silver or a mess of pottage or whichever biblical phrase you want to use. Yeah, rice and peas in the song about Marcus Garvey. I don't know how true it was, but you get the idea. For next to nothing. I made a speech on radio in Jamaica where I called that leadership fool, and gravelicious. And I think that was a third word, right? It's true. These were my colleagues on campus. I'm going to tell you, and people who'd previously been there, right? And they don't know, the children in the room, they're arse from their elbows. They sign all kind of things that ruin Caribbean and African farmers, right? Them sign all kind of thing, yeah. Them sign all kind of thing where fishing rights that thousands of Africans have lived off for years suddenly disappear because them get $1 million to let in some trawlers to sweep the ocean floor bare, right? The things that those people are signing up to, brothers and sisters, it's worse than under colonialism, and it's legitimated by their signature. It's a serious, serious condition we face. And in Britain now, CARICOM,
can we have some order? Big talking going on. There's a serious message being delivered. Brothers and sisters on the balcony, there's a serious message being delivered here, please.
In the Caribbean now, the CARICOM government, you know what happened? Them here said a white lawyer firm gets some money for the Kenyans over Mau Mau. Them not bother to analyze it. Them no know, said the main beneficiary was a white lawyer firm. They signed up instantaneously with a white law firm. And what has a white law firm told them, my brothers and sisters? It tells them that we mustn't proceed down the road where slavery was a crime against humanity. We must proceed under some other law, and we must beg and plead with them, and if we beg right and plead right, then we'll sign on the dotted line. And what will it mean? It will mean that those signatures will have signed away forever. Forever, my brothers and sisters, for next to nothing, even if it's a few billion, for next to nothing, the massive quantum that is due to us when we are in a position to get it properly and not before. So signing up now for next to nothing is the most serious betrayal that we face. iNAPP is taking on that battle. iNAPP is taking on that battle. And we have the brains and energy to do it. And we started the process. The other day, the state put out a consultative document. It said, they want to know what we think about stop and search. Now, me read what the Home Secretary said. I'm a no. So what the Home Secretary is interested in is saving money and saving the police reputation, and indeed Cecil. So there's no point in arguing with the Home Secretary on that matter. I wrote a commentary, historical commentary, on our experience of policing and specifically of stop and search. And it's an iNAPP document, and we're going to use it. One of the things that iNAPP is doing, another priority, is to participate, indeed, to lead the process of the next Pan-African Congress, which is happening in South Africa in the middle of January. Yeah, the 8th pack. And we're proposing a 9th pack in celebration of the one in 1945, the 5th. And it's going to happen either here or in Ghana, right? Because there is work to do. You look at what the 5th pack is proposing, and you look good, and not in a dead end about the issues that I have been talking to you about. There's nothing there about the challenge that neocolonialism represents. iNAPP is on that stuff, right? So that is why I tell you that the quality of the interim leadership is very high indeed. We know what we're doing. We need your support. Don't worry about the matter of the name. Don't worry about the matter of the name. Read the documentation. Go on the website. There is an excellent, all of the committees are excellent, tell the truth, but there's a particularly excellent legal and constitutional committee led by Sister Esther and Sister Ekwa and the excellent brother Kofi Klou. And the conceptualization around the Constitution that those people are coming up with is massive, me tell you. Right, me learn stuff from them. And if me can learn stuff from them, now blow my own trumpet, the African community will learn stuff from them. It matters that we hear them. They have ideas about moving the practice around policing and on the street away from the tepid stuff that other people have been talking about to some, what they call community street lawyering and so on. That we have to develop that work. Enough things are in the offing. The Constitution that has been drafted is being reworked right now to incorporate anti-imperialist, anti-European, anti-white supremacist ideas of international law, of African ideas of law, and so on and so forth. African ideas of land, and so on and so forth. Important work is being done, my brothers and sisters, and a pian sinting, brother leader, we'll do. I tell you, right? So, right, I know that one or two of my fellow Marxists or ex-Marxists have doubts about the thing, and I can understand that. I can understand that. But the truth of the matter is that if you ask the question, why should Africans worldwide start organizations like this, the case for it will have been made in the few words that I've uttered to you here today. This process needs massive, full, 100% total support. Thank you.
Brothers and sisters, one more